Hello, day 20. Again, content warning on this, we're going to talk about self-harm. None of these topics are particularly easy to talk about. And all I'm doing is talking about them. I can only imagine what it feels like to somebody who's going through them, but typically psychologists will say that self-harm is a cry for help. When you self-harm, when people self-harm, what they're doing is they're actually trying to ease the pain and trying to ease other sources of pain by creating a different focus. And there are lots and lots of different reasons why people self-harm. The trauma that they have experienced or the depression that they are experiencing is such that they find it as an escape, or they find that it counteracts the feelings from another part of their trauma or depression. They find that it draws attention in such a way that it distracts from other things that are going on. And it's a very difficult topic because it's not, you can't just say to somebody don't self-harm. You can't. It just doesn't work. It's not that simple. You have to try and figure out the underlying reasons as to why it's happening in the first place. And I think to say that it's a cry for help is too simplistic. And it's one of the things that I found in talking about aspects of trauma and depression is that oftentimes the external view from people who don't suffer either any kind of mental affectation in that sense, whether it's depression or trauma, however, is that it's too simplistic. We as humans love to put labels on things. We love to say it's that. And the reality is that it's never just that. That's black, that's white. There are so many varying shades of grey between the two that we just refuse to see because we're used to the notion of things being easily identifiable. I get an ulcer on my tongue, I know what it is, it's an ulcer on my tongue. I know how to treat it, I know how to fix it, and I'm actually saying that because I have an ulcer on my tongue. I know how to treat it, and I know how to fix it, and that's grand. But what causes it? We don't look at always the underlying reasons as to why. It could be something I ate, it could be stress, it could be so many other reasons. So we can identify the problem when we see it, when it's visible, when it's tangible. But the symptoms and circumstances that arrive at getting to that point of that problem are not always that simple to define. So seeing somebody self-harm or being somebody who does self-harm is an obvious manifestation of a problem. But getting to the root of what that problem is a much more difficult task. Like everything else we've discussed, it takes time, it takes patience, it takes talking. I don't have reasons. I don't know why people self-harm. Personally, I don't have. So I'm not going to try and I'm not trying to find answers. Like all of this stuff here, I'm not trying to be definitive in giving you a response. I'm just trying to help you think about it and recognize that it's not just a simple thing. None of this stuff related to mental illness is simple. It's very, very, very complicated. That's why there are psychologists and psychiatrists. It's because it's a constantly evolving, changing, learning field of study. Somebody who self-harms is definitely crying out for help. There's no question there. So it is a cry for help, but it is not just that simple. What are they crying out for? What kind of help are they looking for? What are they trying to get away from? What pain are they trying to replace? How far do they have to go before it becomes too far? what can we do to prevent it? Because the reality is, when you see somebody self-harm, or when you've seen in the experiences I've had in seeing, and I haven't had that many. Okay, so let me start off by saying that. But in one specific instance where somebody self-harmed, when it was discovered, it was an accusation. Why would you do that to yourself? Why are you doing that? And then, of course, making it about you, the guilt of yourself. Like, what did I do that led you to that? Like, why couldn't you talk to me? And that puts the onus back. That's actually it's a sense of victim blaming. You can't accuse somebody who does that. You can't take it out on them. You can't blame them. Which sounds ridiculous when you talk about the context in which we're speaking. You can't blame somebody for trying to harm themselves. You actually can't, because you have to ask what is leading to that point. How do you react to it without losing your mind, Especially if it's a loved one, a brother, sister, child, a parent. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, a best friend. It doesn't, how do you react to it? There's no easy way to do it. Again, I think the only thing I can suggest is that you have to check yourself, check your privilege, check your perceived understanding. Know that everything you knew or thought about that person has gone out the window because you don't know them at all. If you couldn't see that somebody was going to self-harm, then you don't know them. You absolutely do not know them. And that's where you need to start listening. You should have done it earlier, but if nothing is a sign that they should have done it earlier than like self-harm, then now is definitely the time to start opening up and listening. And you might have thought you were doing it before, you weren't. And like I say, listening involves just listening. It doesn't involve telling people what you think. It involves listening. Listening to silence sometimes, listening to excruciating pain other times, listening to mental pain, physical pain. So, yeah, it's a tough one, and it's the one I probably have the least knowledge of being able to offer any kind of solace to the people who self-harm in that regard. But and I know that me telling you that you're loved and that people love you and that you don't need to do this is not going to be much help to you. But if it does help, then know that there are those that care. Know that there are people who will be there for you and will help you. It's not a reflection of who you are. It's a reflection of the pain you're suffering. It's a reflection of the demons you're fighting. It's not a reflection of who you are. And self-harming can leave you with scars that last a lifetime. Scars you might like to forget, that you can't predict you're going to want to forget. And also it can go too far without meaning to. So yeah, we love you. Don't take that lightly. Understand that that's heartfelt, and that we don't know that we need to help you. We won't know that until you tell us. We're not always that attentive to what's going on with other people. So maybe see if you can talk to us first, and hopefully we can solve this together. Okay? Let's go on. Mind yourself. Talk to you tomorrow.